If you're dealing with constant meltdowns or children who have a lack of focus, increased disruptions in the classroom, it might not be behavior. It could be due to a sensory overload. Hi, I'm Monica Matthews Smith, pediatric occupational therapist with over 22 years of working with children with autism and early education, 16 years in the school district, and I help daycare workers and early childhood educators confidently and effectively support children with autism. In this video, we're going to cover 5 simple sensory strategies that you and your staff can implement today in your daycare setting. So let's get into it. Number 1, you want to create a nice cool down, calming area in the room. Okay, so this could look like a small space, preferably in a corner or just in an area of the room that is not by the busiest parts of the room. In this area, you want to make sure that there is dim lighting, there is soft seating. There might be other sensory items like fidgets or spinners. There might be weighted items like a weighted blanket or a weighted stuffed animal. I know some teachers put canopies or tents, and they might have a misting fan or other calming tools specifically for this space. You want to treat this space as a support center, not a punishment corner. Number 2, you want to make sure that you have built-in movement breaks throughout your day and that they are scheduled. So this could be incorporating jumping activities, dancing activities, stretching. Nowadays, there are a ton of videos on YouTube for educational purposes that get children up and moving. Movement helps to regulate the nervous system. So if you have children that are sitting for long periods of time, then they're going to become fidgety. They're going to have more disruptions. You might see an increase in behaviors. So having those scheduled movement breaks will give the nervous system what it needs, and you should see less of that in your classroom or daycare setting. So point number 3, this is where you can use sensory tools. So we're talking fidgets. We're talking noise canceling headphones if there's a child who seems like they are sensitive to noise stimulation. And as I mentioned earlier in the sensory corner, weighted items. Now, you want to be really careful when it comes to weighted items. You want to make sure that it is not too heavy to cause injury to the child, especially a younger child. So that's why it's important really to seek consultation from a professional like an occupational therapist who can help direct your daycare and the most appropriate and effective tools for your center. But it could be a weighted blanket, a weighted lap pad, a weighted stuffed animal. Those are different types of weighted items that, if used properly, can really help children regulate their sensory system. And why I say use sensory tools with purpose, because sometimes the fidgets and the weighted items can be used as a toy or can be seen as a toy to the child. And we know that if they're using it as a toy, especially the weighted items, then it might not be as effective as if they are using it for its appropriate use. Number 4, so you want to make sure that you reduce the sensory overload in the classroom. So this means reducing visual stimulation, lowering lights. This could mean reducing the noise level in the classroom, reducing visual clutter. So if there are a ton of things on the wall, or just if it's a very busy environment, either noise-wise or visually, you want to reduce that, because that can also cause a sensory overload in a child who has sensory processing deficits as well. And you also want to adjust the lighting. Oftentimes, these loud, bright fluorescent lights are very disturbing to a child who has visual sensitivity. So having a soft lamp, maybe putting something over the fluorescent light if you can't change the light out, or anything to dim the lighting or make it a more of a softer light would be most beneficial. And actually, many things in the environment actually trigger behaviors. And number 5, you just want to make sure that you are being observant to what each child needs. Remember, when you have seen one child with autism, you have seen one child with autism. So because there are no 2 children or individuals with autism who are alike, you really do have to pay attention to what that specific child is showing you through their patterns, through their behaviors. And when they have behaviors, what are the antecedents? What is coming right before that behavior? What seems to be a trigger? Okay, what seems to calm them down when they do become triggered and they do have these meltdowns? How long does it take them to calm down? And then also, you want to make sure that your staff is all on the same page with how you're handling these sensory strategies, that everybody is consistent, because again, structure and consistency is what is most effective for our children with autism. So if you have one staff member who is handling the meltdown this way, and then you have another staff who is doing it their way, but they are not doing it consistently, then the child is not going to respond appropriately. You might even see an increase in behaviors because now the child is even more frustrated because of that lack of consistency. Just remember, consistency equals results, okay? If you want to make sure that you are being most effective, you have to pay attention to what that child is telling you through their behaviors, especially if they are having a delayed or a lack of verbal communication. And then you have to pay attention to what is the antecedent, what is the resolution to that behavior, and then you can formulate a plan so that you can decrease the environmental triggers of that behavior. So this could be transitions, this could be the lighting, the noise, the visual stimulation, and then you can formulate a plan to address these behaviors or to keep them from happening, and educate your staff so that everyone is on the same page and supports that student in the same manner. Just to recap really quickly, the 5 simple sensory strategies that you and your staff can implement in your classroom or daycare center today are: 1, create a calm down or a quiet corner. Number 2, integrate movement breaks throughout the day. 3, have sensory tools available and teach them how to use them appropriately. 4, make any environmental adjustments that are needed. So reduce lighting, reduce noise, reduce visual clutter. 5, make sure that your staff is consistent and that you're giving individualized support. And if you're ready to fully train your staff and team on how to support children with autism, then check out our autism readiness training and certification. And don't forget, for more information on how to support children with autism in your daycare center or early childhood classroom, like this video, subscribe to the page, and comment below. What sensory challenges are you seeing most in your classroom? Until next time, bye.